Hi there, everybody. This is Kristin from Teaching Balance, and I am here with you with this week's mindfulness meditation practice. And we are in the month of inviting you to be gentle with yourself. The first week, we talked a little bit about the transition back to school and whether that is happening now or has already happened or won't happen for a while. Just making that note that that time in particular is especially important for you to extend extra gentleness, kindness, and grace to yourself. Now, we're going to keep going with this idea of kindness and gentleness into this week's invitation, but I wanted to reframe it slightly. So let me explain what I mean by that. So, when it comes to dealing with, the challenges of everyday life. And let's be honest, like some days go great, but there's always something, it seems, that, we have to deal with and be resilient around and manage and, move through and all of that sort of thing. And for whatever reason, sometimes when these things happen and challenges occur or there are like bumps in the road, for whatever reason, and I'm sure that you could say it's based on, your culture, family of origin, the habits that you were taught growing up, whatever it might be, that we tend to be harder on ourselves when things don't go smoothly. And we put too much sort of like responsibility on ourselves and beat ourselves up and are, very, very, in some cases really demeaning to ourselves because we're not handling it better, or perhaps because, we messed up, we made a mistake. God forbid, you're a human, you make a mistake. And so this idea of when things get challenging and we find perhaps that there is this impulse to be hard on ourselves, harsh with ourselves, berate ourselves, beat ourselves up, that is the perfect time to pause, notice that that's where our stream of thought might be going, where our inner voice might be saying, and instead to choose to invite in the quality of kindness like that of a friend. And the idea behind this is, and you could take it two directions, and we've talked about this before, but I think it's absolutely worth revisiting. When you're starting to be hard on yourself, like, I can't believe I messed that up, I should have seen that coming, or I should have anticipated that, or whatever it might be, instead of beating yourself up, you can ask yourself first, question one, what would a dear, dear friend or loved one say to me when I told them about this situation? And odds are someone who loves you and cares about you and is a dear friend of yours isn't going to beat you up about it and isn't going to be harsh with you and isn't going to tell you like, yeah, you really screwed up, get it together, like some sort of like harshness. They're going to be kind and supportive and unconditionally loving towards you. And so that's the first question that you can ask of yourself, which is, what would a dear friend or loved one say to me as I'm experiencing this emotional upheaval around this problem? And then the other way you can look at it is, I'm going to assume that you have loved ones and friends that you are very kind to and supportive of. And I want you to consider the possibility of extending that same quality of kindness that you extend to others towards yourself. And so even though it almost might even feel corny, if you will, when you're dealing with something that's really challenging, and I've heard many meditation and self-compassion teachers talk about even, putting your hands over your chest, over your heart center, as a way to hold physically, literally, yourself and to offer yourself those same sentiments of kindness, compassion, and support that you would to others, to other loved ones. So even saying to yourself as you mentally start to go down that path, like, oh God, I should be handling this better. I can't believe I messed that up. Instead, interrupting that and saying, you're doing the best that you can. You know, you can't anticipate every single problem. Things will always arise, and you're going to handle it in the same way that you've handled all the other challenges that you've been through. And you're just going to give yourself this really kind and sweet pep talk, reminding yourself that you're a good person and you're trying your best and all of the things associated with that. So those are the two ways you can play with it. And I would just go with whichever one feels easiest. So if it's easier for you to think, what would a dear friend say to me? Then that's what you wanted to say in your mind. And if you want to, you can even visualize that loved one or that friend saying those words to you. And you can also play with this idea of what would I say to a dear friend who is going through the same thing and having the same internal issue that I'm having, and then saying those things to yourself. So let's go ahead and do a little bit of a sit. And what I think I'd like to do, I'm just going to trust myself and believe that I'll pick the one that feels most resonant for you guys. We'll do maybe the first half, just traditional meditation, probably more silence since I'll be talking for the latter half. And I'll give you an example of what this might look like in a meditation or in a sitting context. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm setting my timer for 10 minutes. I'm just going to stretch my neck. It's been bugging me. And if you'd like, rolling those shoulders back, which of course opens up the heart center. And this whole idea of extending the kindness to yourself that you would to a friend or that a friend would to you. So the more expansive the chest cavity and the heart center, perhaps we have a little more room to let in some of that love and kindness and heartfulness. If you haven't already, taking a few long, slow, deep breaths. In whatever way feels right to you right now. And letting your awareness rest on either the breath or the body or sounds, whatever feels right to you. We're going to sit together in silence for a while, and I'll interject about halfway through, as I said, and we'll play with some of this kindness to oneself. So let's sit together for a while. if you'd like to continue just to sit, you're more than welcome to do that. But if you're interested in playing with this idea of the friendship, kindness, what I'd love for you to do is just transition slightly, either with one hand over the heart center, or you can do two. I'm feeling kind of the one today. And there's really just something useful about that physical contact that just is a very concrete signal that we're about to give ourselves compassion. And in this case, I'd like for you to allow yourself just to bring to mind a loved one, a dear friend, someone who you know unquestionably cares for you, supports you, and unconditionally loves you. And if it's appealing to you, you can imagine them in your mind's eye, sitting or standing across from you. And I'd like for you to bring to mind perhaps a recent challenge, something that was a bump in the road, not a very big bump. We're going to just kind of keep it as something a little bit more surface level, a little bit lighter, but just something where you were disappointed with something or it didn't work out and you're feeling a little hard on yourself about it. And as you picture this loved one, I want you to allow yourself to know that they know what happened and they know how you're feeling. And I'd like for you to, in this visualization, in your mind, hear them saying all the supportive, kind, compassionate, and loving words that you know that you'd hear them say. I'm going to leave space for you to fill that in instead of giving you some suggestions. So let's hear what they have to say. And as best you can, allowing those supportive sentiments, those kind words, this little pep talk to really sink in. Don't just brush it off. That would be really a disservice to the spirit behind it. Instead, allow it to wash over you. Allow it to be internalized, these kind words that are supportive, loving, and compassionate. And if it's helpful, you can hear that yet again, the same words, or hearing them expand on their sentiments from earlier. Allowing it to wash over you, to penetrate your being. Just letting it sink in. Remembering that you can accept these unconditional words of support and love and kindness, and that doing so will strengthen you in ways that you can't even conceive. These words are nourishing, supportive, and loving, and will give you what you need to go forward. And before we hear that final bell, allowing yourself to feel gratitude. That's our 10 minutes of practice. So for that visualization, we probably did that for like 4 to 5 minutes. But that's something that you can do in 30 seconds. When you notice that you're just starting to go down that self-criticism spiral, which of course we all do, just pause, take a couple of deep breaths, and really just invoke that quality of kindness of a friend, either from a loved one or friend toward you, or allowing yourself really to cultivate that spirit of kindness and support and love that you would extend to others, and then just turn it back on yourself. Whichever one feels the most resonant is the one that I would encourage you to go with. As always, thank you so much for taking this time for yourself, and thank you for allowing me to accompany you on this journey. May you continue to be gentle with yourself in the coming weeks, and I will see you next time. Take care. Bye.